Hi friends, my name is Jo. Welcome back to my channel. It is May 29th, so we are going to do a little May wrap up. So grab a drink, get cozy, and let's go through May. I wanted to start with some May favorites because I thought that would just be fun. I, of course, am such a coffee girly that I needed to start with what I've been drinking this month, and maple has definitely been the theme. It's just such a good latte, such a good sweetener, but it doesn't feel too sweet and too overpowering like some of the more artificial sweeteners sometimes do. So obviously when I go to coffee shops, I like to try their spring specials and that kind of thing, but maple has definitely been the theme this month. I did go to a coffee shop and try a dirty banana chai, which just means it has a shot of espresso in it, but that was also delicious. So that is a contender. I definitely drank a lot more maple than banana chais though. What I've been listening to has been a lot of Mumford & Sons and Benson Boone. Mumford & Sons released a new album, Rushmere, in March, and I've kind of just been listening to it since then. Benson Boone released either one or two new songs so far this year, and they've both been really fun. Mystical Magical is also just such a summer vibe kind of song, so it's been fun to have on. And then just today started listening to some All Time Low. I'm not sure where this came from, but I've been in that kind of pop punk vibe the last couple of days, and it came up on my liked songs when I just hit shuffle, and I was like, this is the vibe for today. So yeah, we'll see if that continues into June. Other favorites from this month, my sister turned me on to the e.l.f. tubing mascara, and that has been a game changer for me because the reason I don't wear makeup 90% of the time is because I hate taking it off at night. And this mascara, literally all you have to do is get it wet and then just pull it off your eyelashes, and it's fantastic. It comes off so easily. And I have actually been wearing mascara consistently, and it's just so easy. It's like $8, I think. Love it. That has been a game changer. Also, the Summer Fridays lip gloss. I don't know the actual official name for it, and actually now that I think of it, I don't think I know the official name for the e.l.f. tubing mascara either. I don't think it's called that. I think it has a name. Anyway, the Summer Fridays lip gloss has also been fantastic. I've been using that since about the start of the year, still on the same tube. I have never been a lip gloss girl. It's always too sticky and I don't like it, but this just sits on your lips really nicely and they feel soft and not sticky. So I've been loving that as well. And then aside from favorites, I also thought it'd be really fun to do just a what I'm grateful for this month, and I would love to hear what you were grateful for. Leave a comment with some of the best things that happened in May, the things that stood out to you that really made your month. Me specifically, in May, I was really grateful for the warmer weather finally coming and sunshine. I literally turn into a different person when there is sun, and it was so wonderful having the sun back and being able to sit outside and go for walks and feel the sun on my skin. And I definitely got sunburned, and I'm gonna say I'm grateful for the sunburn because I'm so happy the sun is back. I know it's bad for me. I have been a lot better about the sunblock since I got the sunburn, but still. Alongside the warmer weather, I've also been so grateful for all the coffee dates that I've had the opportunity to have with friends, as this is my first month without school, so I've had the opportunity to get coffee with a few people that I haven't seen in a while, or time was just so taken up with homework that I didn't have the chance to talk to people. So that was really awesome, getting to go out and get coffee or just chat with people that I've missed while I've been busy with school. This being my first month with no school, I also had so much more time to help with housework and also just to be present and read books and enjoy the warm weather and all of that, and that was just such a good feeling. So also so grateful for that. But without further ado, we will move into books that I read this month, and I had quite a pile. I got to read a lot over Memorial Weekend specifically, so this is a little bit of a conglomeration. I think I had 2 audiobooks that I listened to this month, and then the rest were physical copies. I suppose I should explain this because I think I've mentioned it, but I don't know if I've ever actually explained it. I am trying to read all of the books that I already own and are currently on my bookshelf. Some of them I have read before, but I want to reread them because I don't have a history of when and if I read them, and it would have been such a long time ago that I even just want to reread them to see if I want to keep them, like them, that kind of thing. Anywho, the first book that I finished this month I actually listened to. It was The Selection by Keira, and I rated The Selection 3.25 stars out of 5. This is a book that I have read before. I don't own it, but I read it, I think, in middle school, and I decided to reread it as like a nostalgic. I didn't remember the plot very well, and I thought it would be fun. The Selection is about a post-World War III world. It's still Earth, and there are still some of the countries that we have now, but it talks about, like, I think China invaded the US, and then the US became something else, and basically it's not the world that we're in. It's kind of a not apocalyptic, but post-World War III, where everything's a little bit more stable now, but very different. This country that our main character, her name is America, so the country that America lives in is divided by social class. So each class has a number. There's 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, and 8s. 8 being the lowest and 1 being the highest. And they each have specific jobs that they are required to do. So the 1 is like the royalty. 2s and 3s, I don't know if they actually have occupations, but like America is a 6, and she is a musician. And she is in love with a boy that is a caste lower than her. And basically, the premise of the book is that the social classes are really hard to move through, and it is kind of a reflection on the social class. The plot of the book follows America as the country's prince. The country has this tradition, and so the prince is of age to marry, and basically, I think it starts with 30 girls are chosen from all classes and all various areas of the country to come to the palace and essentially compete to marry Prince Maxon is his name. Obviously, you can kind of tell, like, the whole beginning of the book, America's convinced that she won't be chosen to go into this. It's called The Selection. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen, so I don't think that this would be considered a spoiler. America ends up at the palace fighting for the affections of Prince Maxon. So the first book is following the whittling down of the 30 to the elite, and America's relationship building with Prince Maxon, but then also her heart being torn with the boy that she left behind at home. I rated it a 3.25 out of 5. I think the writing is really basic. It's really easy to get through. There's a lot of kind of cringy parts between America and the boys. I think America is she almost feels like an unreliable narrator. The amount of times that everybody else is like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful, of course you're gonna get chosen, oh my gosh, you're gorgeous, oh my gosh, you're drop dead like amazing, and she's like, no, I'm not pretty, what are you talking about, I'm not pretty. It's a lot of that, and that's a little bit like cringy to me. That's kind of like just a little tough for me. There was a lot of that cringe aspect, a lot of that like I'm different, I'm not like the other girls. There was a lot of that. I think that there's value in reflecting on social castes and the obliviousness. Is that the right word for that? I'm not sure. The obliviousness of like the upper social classes to the pain and hardships of the lower social classes. I think that that's an important thing to reflect on, and I think that it's a valuable part of the series, but it's really difficult to wade through the other parts of the series to get to that. I also personally have a really hard time with love triangles, and the longer that those go on and are like stretched on, the harder it is for me to stay engaged. So I think that really bothered me. So I did finish The Selection, and I did actually start the elite, but I DNF'd it, I think 29% of the way through, because I was just so over America going back and forth and pulling these two boys' heartstrings, and like, you gotta choose, girl. It is not fair to either of them. That's just not, yeah. was not for me. So I DNF'd the series. Yeah, there are definitely those valuable parts, but then there was a lot to wade through and I just couldn't do it. And I think maybe I should have left the nostalgic in the past and left that be. So we're not gonna pick up the selection series again, but I definitely think that there is value in it, and maybe if you're reading it for the first time, there wouldn't be that much cringe. Also, I did forget to mention, I listened to the audiobook, and I think the audiobook narrator's voice was not for me. So I do wonder if I had read the physical copies, if I would have been able to get through it easier. The next book that I read after the selection was Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, which is book 2 in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And this one I rated 3.75 out of 5. The Shadow and Bone trilogy I think I talked about in my April reads video because I read book 1 there. So basically this is in Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse, and it follows Alina Starkov, and she's kind of it's this chosen one kind of idea, and she's supposed to like save the world essentially. I like Leigh Bardugo's writing style a lot. I think this plot felt a little repetitive to me from Shadow and Bone. So the ending kind of mirrored the ending of Shadow and Bone. The beginning and the middle, like the whole thing felt like it followed the same kind of plot structure that Shadow and Bone did. So that was a little difficult for me because I finished it and was like, wait, I feel like I've already read this. So that was kind of hard for me. I do like her writing style, and I became more fond of the characters, I think, in this book. In Siege and Storm, we do meet my favorite character. Stormhound is absolutely my favorite character, so I will just say that. If you read these books, like, he is the best. I have heard that the King of Scars duology is about him, so looking forward to reading that one at some point because I really, really love his character and want more of him. After Siege and Storm, I just went ahead and read Ruin and Rising and finished the trilogy. I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars because I think that of all the ways to end this trilogy, this was absolutely the best way that she could have done it. Endings are really hard, and I think she killed this one. I think that any other ending would have been either frustrating or dissatisfying, and I didn't really see the ending coming. I wasn't sure how it was gonna go, and I think she did a really great job ending this one. I think that the characters in this series, the setup of this series, there are other series that I love more, which is why it didn't end up being a 5-star for me, but I think that this really pulled the series out for me. Like, this made it a good series, in my opinion. The ending was fantastic, and honestly, if you can kill an ending, especially when I wasn't super invested or like obsessed with the series to begin with, that's a feat, and I think, like, kudos to Leigh Bardugo for that. It is hard to pull out a really good fantasy series ending, and I think she did it here. I think that this was done really well. After that, I just decided to go on with more Leigh Bardugo and picked up Six of Crows, which is a duology set in the Grishaverse. So it's not set in Ravka, it's set in Ketterdam. Six of Crows is significantly more heist-based. It's a lot more found family and a lot more about the characters and the plot than it is about the setting and saving the world kind of thing. So in this, basically, it's a bunch of outcasts in the sort of slums of Ketterdam, I think is kind of how they're referred to. The barrel of Ketterdam is kind of the slums of the city, and it's a city really focused on trade and money and all of that, and basically they're outcasts and they get offered this crazy, like, difficult job heist to complete. And so they assemble this crew and set out to do this heist, and the characters are so fantastically written. This is a 5 out of 5 star book for me. Kaz is one of my favorite, like, morally gray male main characters, I think. Love him. Kaz is fantastic. I watched the show for the Six of Crows parts. The cast that they had to portray the Six of Crows was impeccable. Fantastic. I have to suspend reality a little bit with this series because they are all introduced as 17, and I cannot see 17-year-olds doing these things. I absolutely think of them as like 20-somethings in my mind. Rereading this, I had to kind of remind myself, like, okay, yes, they're 17, we're gonna pretend that they're 20-somethings because I can't put 17-year-olds doing these things. That just does not work in my brain. That I had to kind of set aside, but otherwise I love this book. I think it's fantastic. I think if you like fantasy, if you like morally gray characters, if you like found family, this is a wonderful book to go for. It's a duology, so there's not a lot of investment or commitment that you have to make. So I think these are really great. This was 5 out of 5 stars for me. I did also read The Crooked Kingdom, which is the second book in that duology. Crooked Kingdom, I gave 4.25 stars out of 5. I can't say a whole ton about this plot because it's really dependent on the plot of book 1, but it is another heist. The heist is a lot more complicated in this one. There are a lot more steps, a lot more back and forth, layers upon layers upon layers of heists. I love the dynamic of Kaz and Inej in both books, but I think Nina and Matthias, on my second read through, I want so much more of them. Like, I love them so much, and I think in the first read through I just didn't notice. I was so focused on figuring out the heist and all of that I wasn't paying as much attention to their relationship, but I want so much more of Nina and Matthias. Like, I wish that they had their own series. Also, there's a plot twist at the end of this book, or an event that happens, that I forgot about, and I was almost in tears again because I forgot that it happened. So if you read these for the first time and you cry at books, be prepared, you might cry. I cry pretty easily, but still. I love these, highly recommend these. The next book I listened to, but I do have the anthology of all of Louisa May Alcott's works. So I listened to Little Women, and I gave that 4 stars out of 5. I have read Little Women before. It is about 4 girls growing up from girlhood to womanhood and how they kind of discover what that looks like, learn how to be women, how to be wives, how to be homemakers, go through kind of discovering what life means to each of them and their ideals and morals and that kind of thing. It's a really sweet reflection on girlhood, and I do really enjoy that aspect of it. The writing is very well done. It's old writing, so I find it very beautiful, and I always enjoy that kind of writing. I did listen to it, and that was kind of fun because there are pieces that I noticed that I haven't before. I think the reason it's not 5 stars for me is just on the reread, there are some moral pieces that I have a little more issue with, and it's the idea of taking what's good and leaving what's bad and having that discernment. So, you have to have that with any book you read. But yeah, I definitely think that there were some moral pieces that were hard for me to read and listen to at times. Like, she really highlights that marriage is the ultimate goal of any woman's life and the ultimate happiness, and that's where you achieve the most joy. And I think it may even explicitly say that at one point, but I think it's an outdated message that is the ultimate achievement a woman can attain, is marriage and building a home and having children. So that's a difficult thing in this book because I think that there's the opportunity for Jo to take a different path than her sisters and for there to be the dynamic of both options. Yes, you can have happiness in marriage and homemaking and children, and it is possible to have happiness and find fulfillment in other ways as well. So that was definitely an interesting reflection. It is just a sweet tale of girlhood, and there's laughter, and just the scenarios and the scrapes that the girls get themselves into are amusing and they're fun, and there are good moral lessons in there as well. So yeah, absolutely still a good book. I think that if you enjoy kind of slice of life stories, you would really like Little Women. Now, this starts everything that I read over Memorial Weekend, so I have already talked about quite a few of these in my Memorial Weekend vlog, but I will still do a quick review of them here. If you'd like to see me reading them in more real time and giving my thoughts on them as I read them, feel free to watch that. The first one was The Whispering Dark by Kelly Andrew, which I gave 3.75 out of 5 stars. This was pretty interesting. It is about a girl who gets a scholarship to go to a special school that has this new special program that they're just starting, I think. And this is set in a college, so it's probably more new adult than young adult, I would say. I would definitely, if you're the kind of person that looks up content warnings, I would look that up. There's definitely some darker stuff in here, and so if you prefer to look up content warnings, I would definitely check that out for this book, just in case. Our main character is Delaney, and she is deaf. So she gets this scholarship to this special school. And the first part of the book, it feels like, was overly dark academia, like trying a little too hard. There were a lot of tropes that I was kind of like, this is our third time that our male main character is leaning on something over her. And at this point, like, you can include that once, maybe twice. 3 times in the first half of the book is a lot. So a lot of little things like that felt a little overly done. It felt like the descriptions of the characters were really cliche, dark academia, misfit, but not vibes. So that felt a little overdone as well for me. But in the second half of the book, when we got into the more fantastical aspect, different worlds, that kind of piece, that was way more interesting to me. And that part was really engaging. And I kind of flew through that half. I thought that it was very interesting and well done in terms of how the resolution came about, and the twist was interesting and I enjoyed that. I don't want to spoil anything, but Delaney hears things, you know, it's called the Whispering Dark, and so she hears things in the shadows and she's scared of the dark and that kind of thing. And this special college is exploring the possibility of moving between different realities. So the same world, but different timelines, different realities of like what could have happened. If you like the darker side of fantasy and that sort of thing, this is definitely a good book. I appreciated the writing. If you can stick through the kind of exposition piece of the first bit, the second bit really gets a lot more engaging and interesting and fast-paced. So the next book I read was our book club book, which we actually just had book club last night and talked about this. So it was The Sirens by Emilia Hart, and it was not what I expected at all. The premise of this book is 3 different timelines: 2019, 1999, and 1800. So it follows Lucy in 2019, Jess in 1999, and Mary and Eliza in 1800. Mary and Eliza are on a convict ship from Ireland to Australia. Jess, we're reading her diary, and then Lucy is the main character that you're truly following in real time. She is having dreams of Mary and Eliza, and she is the one reading Jess's diary. So you're kind of getting it all from Lucy's perspective, but you're still getting the perspective of Mary and Eliza and Jess. It's a lot more real world than I was expecting. Like, you don't get much of a fantastical element until pretty much the end of the book. There's hints at it, but it's not really there until the very end. It's very real world, set in Australia. It's not super fantastical till the very end. Basically, it follows these girls as they have different experiences, kind of relating to the way that men have mistreated them in their lives. And that seems to awaken this sleepwalking kind of thing for Lucy and Jess that then shows them the story of Mary and Eliza. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed the writing style. I enjoyed the pacing and the plot. I think that was well done. I think that there was a lot of opportunity here for a commentary on women supporting women and the female experience and what women go through on a daily basis that men just like don't have a concept of. And I think that she just stayed really surface level with it. Like, they all had these experiences, but there was no communication between the modern women, and it was almost like they weren't helping themselves and they weren't helping each other. And so instead of showing how women band together in those experiences, they were very solitary and very like almost passing on this generational trauma instead of showing how you can support each other. Honestly, all of that would have been okay, and I think I still could have given this like a 3 or 3.5, but the epilogue absolutely ruined this book for me. I think it undermined the little bit of women support women and female experience that was there. I think it took that positive out of it. And I'm not going to say what it was because that spoils a lot of other pieces of the book and a lot of the mystery aspect of the book. But the epilogue really frustrated me, and I thought that it canceled out a lot of any of the positives of the rest of the book. So I should mention I would also look up content warnings for this book, but there's also could be some triggering scenes for some people. So that's kind of where I stand on The Sirens by Emilia Hart. That was a 2-star read for me, which I was a little sad about. The next book I read was The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. I read it in October of 2019, so that was almost 6 years ago. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven follows our main character Eddie in the last moments of his life, and then as he meets 5 people in heaven who walk him through the major moments of his life and show him how his life affected others, how their lives affected his, that sort of thing. Even though I read it before, this book still made me tear up again. It's so good. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It's so heartfelt and bittersweet in all the best ways. The writing is very emotional, and Eddie is so well portrayed. And I love just this concept of ordinary people who have such a wide range of impact that they'll never know. I mean, in this case, he finds out in heaven. And I think that's a beautiful representation of heaven, that you get to see the impact that you have had on all of the people that you have had contact with, or maybe even haven't had contact with. I sincerely love this book. He does a very good job of representing the ordinary and how the ordinary isn't truly ordinary, and I think that that's so beautiful. Next, I read If Cats Disappeared from the World. This is translated from Japanese by Eric Selland. So I gave If Cats Disappeared from the World 3 out of 5 stars. This follows a postman who gets a terminal diagnosis and then makes a deal with the devil to get rid of one thing from the world for every day that he wants to live. So I think the main idea of this book is showing the impact that the little things have on our world and have on how we experience life. I think it's a very sweet read. Difficulty that I had with it, I had a really hard time connecting to our main character and the other characters introduced. I had a really hard time finding the emotion in it. And I think that that was mainly due to it being translated. I think if I knew Japanese and could read it in the original language, I would probably feel that and understand it more. But as it was, I had a hard time connecting that, and it wasn't a very emotional read for me, which I think is the intention of this book. So it's very sweet, it's very cute. I wish that I could read it in its original language. I just didn't connect as much with the writing as I would have liked to. The last book that I read in May, I finished, I think, yesterday, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. In April, I think, I finished The Starless Sea by her. It feels like Erin Morgenstern writes very cerebrally, and it is set in real world, but the magic suspends reality in a way, but is also integrated into reality, and the characters are doing these things that it's not magic, but it is, but they're just changing their perception of the world. So it's a much more cerebral view of magic and fantasy than is in a lot of other fantasy books that I read. This specifically, I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed The Night Circus significantly more than The Starless Sea. I think it had a lot more plot than The Starless Sea did. The Night Circus follows 2 children as they grow up, and they are basically engaged in this competition that they had no say in. They were chosen essentially for this competition by these 2 older gentlemen who pit them against each other. They know that they're in it. They don't know who their competitor is for a good portion. They don't know the rules of the competition. They don't know how long it's going to be or when it's going to be decided, anything like that. They are just meant to go through with this competition, and it is set in a circus, which is super fun. I think the reason that this isn't 5 stars for me is the beginning was a little slow and it felt like the stakes weren't there. I think the stakes would have felt a lot higher and would have pushed the book along a little bit more if we knew the rules, even if the main characters didn't. The only other piece was that it was a little bit hard to follow the timelines because they did jump around. If you are going to read The Night Circus, pay attention to the chapter headings and the year that you're in, because it is important. So that is all of the books that I read in May. I'm going to bring you along with me to update my bullet journal because I haven't done that in a little bit. And then Gan got me a stamp that basically says from the library of me. So I want to work on putting that in the books that I've read, and then I like to write in pencil when I read each book. So I will probably take you with me while I do that as well. Doing this here because there's a lot more space, and I have all of the books that I have read so far this year, my stamp, a dull pencil, and I copied down the dates that I finished everything because I used my phone to film, and I have 20 minutes until a friend gets here, so let's get stamping.